the circumstances of this person's life. Was this telegraphed in any way? Sadly, we've seen in incidents, people do know things in advance. They just don't say so.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't understand always what they are seeing and that it is a sign of something so serious to come. Josh, thank you so much. Stand by for us. We'll have much more on this breaking news out of Georgia. At least 4 dead, dozens injured. The number at this point, according to sources that our John Miller is speaking to, 30 injured. Not entirely clear that all of those are related to the shooting, that those are gunshot injuries. So we are still waiting for a lot of details to come in, but this is what we're monitoring here. A shooting at a high school northeast of Atlanta. Stay with CNN for the latest.
Honey?
But the gains are pumping.
Yeah, the market's closed.
Teachers don't sleep in the after hours, bro.
Dad.
Turn that down. Okay, you're tapping into the Keep It P podcast. We have a shooting in Winder, Georgia. At least 4 people are believed to have been killed, and approximately 30 more were injured in the shooting at Apalachee High School in Winder, Georgia. Although it's unclear how many of the injuries are from gunshot wounds, according to law enforcement sources, this information is preliminary and is subject to change. A suspect who is of student age is in custody, but it is unclear if the person actually attends the school. According to the sources, all schools in the district were placed in lockdown and police were sent out of an abundance of caution to all district high schools, but there are no reports of secondary incidents or scenes, according to the sources. Some of the critically injured were removed by helicopter, and additional helicopters are on standby. This is live. This is currently going on now. 4 kids killed, 30 injured in a high school shooting in Winder, Georgia. It could take multiple days to get answers on the shooting. The sheriff said, Judge Smith out of Broward County. Authorities are scrambling to find answers after the shooting at Apalachee High School in Winder, Georgia, but also cautioned that answers may not come quickly. We are asking for your patience. Please let us get the facts that we need to make sure we get this right, Smith said at a news conference Wednesday afternoon. We know the shooter's not black. We got to get all the facts together. We got to get all our information. Don't rush to judgment. You don't rush. You got to have some patience. You got to have a little patience with us. This is going to take multiple days for us to get answers as to what happened and why this happened. But if the shooter was black, you wouldn't need none of the answers. We would already know, he already been condemned. We would know if he was dead or not. You said in custody. Does that mean that the shooter who just shot 4 people isn't dead? Did you not shoot him? They're currently in the process of reunifying students with parents. If anybody's tapping in from Winder, Georgia, tap in, let us know what's going on. Authorities are reuniting Apalachee High School students with parents. We're in the process of reuniting students with their parents. Obviously, that's chaotic, but we want to be respectful of them and their privacy as well. Who cares about privacy if kids and people are being shot up? That's how you know this is a male shooter. They're worried about privacy and we want to get this right and we want to get you answers, and so it might take multiple days to get you answers. We want to get you the answers that you deserve. We'll be getting back to this shortly with the news conference. Obviously, you see me working on it. We had a commercial. They're just still finding out the information. Once again, it's 4 killed. Let's join the Attorney General.
They are charged with conspiring to commit money laundering and to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That law, enacted nearly a century ago, was enacted to ensure that the American people were informed when a foreign power engages in political activities
man.
or seeks to
This
influence
don't-
public discourse.
Hold on, fam.
The
That ain't
American
got
people
nothing.
are
See,
entitled to know.
the trickery. The trickery. Multiple injuries, 30 plus injuries, multiple people wounded. The shooting is at Apalachee High School in Winder, Georgia. It's a very, very fluid situation. They're in early stages. They're not releasing specific numbers of the injured, but it's over 30. What you see behind us is an evil thing today, is what the Broward County Sheriff said. It's located an hour outside of Atlanta. It has a population of 18,000. We're again talking about Winder, Georgia, where Apalachee High School is located, where the school shooting has taken place. It is a student-aged shooter. We're not sure how old he is or if he goes to the school. I heard reports that it is a he, possibly, and 17 years old. These are all early reports. Don't nobody know nothing as usual. Winder, city of Winder, 18,000 people, 24th largest school district in the state. That's the Broward County school system. It serves about 15,000 students. And about 2,000 of them are enrolled at Apalachee High School. One gunshot victim has made it to Grady Hospital. I don't know if they have survived, if they're dead. They're really not saying too much. They're saying at least 4 people dead so far. There could be more because there's over 30 injured. Joe Biden is already tapped in on the shooting. That's how you know this is what? This is all what? This is the Mayo Mafia at work. Just tapping in to give y'all this breaking news. How we do. They're already directed resources to respond to the high school incident. It's a shooting, not an incident. The governor has already tapped in. Brian Kemp has already directed available state resources to the high school. That's how you know it is what? It is what? I'll keep y'all posted as we get more information. It doesn't seem to be like this is that important. I've never seen nothing like it. Russia's interfering on it's more important to talk about Russia and their interference on the election. Are you
They were
interested
major
in this?
U.S. news sites like the Washington Post or Fox News. But in fact, they were fake sites. They were filled with Russian government propaganda that had been created by the Kremlin to reduce international support for Ukraine, bolster pro-Russian policies and interests,
So is this
and
your
influence
excuses on why you're
voters in
backing
the
up
United
Ukraine
States
and sending
and in
them
other
billions
countries.
of dollars and why we can't
Internal
get reparations?
documents of the Kremlin describe the content as, quote, bogus stories disguised as newsworthy events, close quote. This malign influence campaign has been referred to as doppelganger. The Russian public relations companies drove viewers to these websites by deploying influencers and paid social media advertisements. They also created fake social media profiles, posing as U.S. citizens, to post comments on social media platforms with links to the sites. According to SDA's records, it actively sought to, quote, eliminate the possibility of detection of the Russian footprint. Both of the schemes I've just discussed make clear the ends to which the Russian government, including at its highest levels,
Tired of that old garbage. Was y'all listening to that? Blame it on Russia. It's Russia's fault. Another one. Yeah, fam, another one. Another, you know it's happening all the time. Also, this one don't have no volume for y'all. They don't want us to hear about it. Let me get y'all another. Let's see what else they got to say. Because they don't seem to know nothing. When it's little Johnny shooting up everywhere, you don't know nothing. You don't never know nothing. And it's always the kid go, let's not rush to no judgments now. We got to make sure we don't be rushing on no judgments now. You can't just rush off the, you're rushing off the seams now.
We all know at this point, the collective, all of us know how these things go right now. There are many different scenarios that could have played out. We do not know if the suspect who is in custody was a student, or if this was a stranger, or if this was an employee, or if this was a former student. These are the questions that we are waiting for right now. Just a couple hours left until we are expected to be briefed again by law enforcement. They gave a very brief press conference and essentially said, they know we are all waiting for information. We have been standing here live, watching this happen with you for hours, waiting on information. Unfortunately, he says right now, this scene is just so rapidly developing. He literally said they were finding new evidence by the minute. So there wasn't anything he could give us with concrete evidence that points to what happened here. So,
you don't never
as
know
we
nothing.
take a live look around the school, at one point it was very chaotic out there, and then at some point it shifted a bit to where you're seeing right now, where there wasn't a lot of commotion. Things seemed a bit calmer, albeit there's a lot of law enforcement presence still out there on the scene. But we don't know what's happening in the school right now. In the school, there are likely droves of law enforcement. GBI is on scene right now. FBI Atlanta is on scene right now. Multiple local law enforcement agencies, surrounding counties. We've had Atlanta and other cities say, hey, if you need any help, any assistance, we're here for you. Other school districts in our areas have said to parents, they put out a note saying, hey, we know you're watching this as well. We know you're wondering how safe your students are. And they assured parents that there are a lot of safety measures in place to prevent something so horrific. Unfortunately, somehow this has happened. And I think a lot of us have questions as to how.
We are also waiting to hear from the White House. We know that President Biden has been briefed on this. He has offered, of course, all federal resources to the teams on the ground. In fact, we have seen federal officers on the scene this morning wearing FBI-marked jackets. So we know that they're there, and we know that they will play a role in this investigation. We don't know which agency will take over the lead role. A lot of times that is something that is determined between the different agencies, depending on exactly what the crime is. And so we'll learn more about that, who will be the lead investigative agency here. But we are expecting to hear from President Biden, we are expecting to hear from the White House.
Yes.
We may or may not hear from the president himself, but the White House is expected to hold some type of a press briefing very soon. So, of course, we'll bring you that as well. We think about how long these investigations can take. I mean, I'll remind everybody that it was mid-July, almost 2 months ago now, when there was an assassination attempt on former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and where one person was killed and several people were injured, including the former president himself. That investigation is still ongoing, and police have not been able to determine a motive in that case. Of course, the shooter in that instance was killed by law enforcement, snipers. So it's obviously the police were not able to talk with him to try to get more information on a potential motive. But again, it just gives you an idea of how long it takes sometimes to get concrete answers. We all want to know the answers immediately, but again, the sheriff said, "Be patient."
You got all
and
the
that,
answers.
unfortunately, is what we're going to have to be here because it could take a while until we learn the answers to all of the questions that we have right now.
Okay, now we're just getting some new information. As we've told you, we have many reporters on scene here and in our studio digging for answers, trying to get you the most updated information. We also have John Decker. He is here joining us with more information on the federal response. So, John, what do you know?
Well, the president has been briefed by his Homeland Security advisor. That was earlier today. We learned this through a pool report which went out about an hour or so ago. And the president is now meeting with his advisors and coordinating some sort of federal response. We also know, according to another pool report, that the vice president has also been briefed. There's no word as to whether or not the president will address the media. We know that the White House press briefing has been pushed back until after the 2 o'clock hour today, and perhaps we'll get some more information coming from the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre.
John, unfortunately, we have covered these situations too many times to count. And it is just unacceptable. And every time we hear from the president afterwards, and they talk about things that they would like to do, policies that they would like to put in place, legislation that they would like to introduce and get passed that might help to prevent something like this from happening again. But the sad reality is that no president has been able to come up with any kind of a magic solution to this.
What you going to do about these super predators?
And it doesn't matter who's in the White House.
You're absolutely right about that. I remember being in the White House and having President Obama come out to address the press in the White House press briefing room after that shooting that occurred at Sandy Hook in Connecticut.
The Keep It P sources say at least 4 dead.
Point. That was the tipping point for having
According
Congress
to Keep It P
come forward with some meaningful
sources.
legislation or policy proposals that would certainly decrease the amount of these types of episodes from happening in the future. And it didn't happen then, and it hasn't happened since. And I think that's the really frustrating thing for any leader, whether you're talking about
Georgia,
a Democrat like President Barack Obama,
Atlanta,
a Republican like President Trump in the last administration, or President Biden right now. We are likely to hear from the vice president a little bit later today. She's in New Hampshire today campaigning, but I am certain that she will address reporters, talk to reporters about what happened in Georgia earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to inject politics into this,
Right.
but obviously there is an election coming up, and we have 2 candidates who are running to be the next president of the United States. I would think that they would have to say something, right?
Well, certainly you would expect that from our leaders. And as it relates to the 2 candidates, I mentioned what the vice president is doing today, and I would certainly expect her to talk about this terrible tragedy happening earlier today, another one in
John Decker, our White House correspondent.
A town hall prepared that will take place this evening in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's with Fox News, and certainly I would expect the interviewer there, the moderator of that event, Sean Hannity, to ask about that, if not having a question posed to the former president by those in the audience in Pennsylvania.
Former President Trump was in office when the shooting in Parkland took place. And that was another scenario where you thought maybe something will be done. And in fact, there was some legislation that came from
How y'all gonna be like, let's not talk about politics.
Awful tragedy.
Don't want to bring politics.
And former President Trump did hold, I remember several meetings with
what y'all
the
gonna
victims
do about the male mafia
different stakeholders in the Parkland shooting at
that?
the White House. And then something happened, right?
Well, yes,
All right.
something did
We are a
happen
national
as it
broadcast here at
relates to
CBS News 24/7, but as we say all the time, all stories are local stories. You've been listening to local coverage out of Atlanta with our CBS partners. Once again, a shooting at a high school not long after class went into session today. Multiple law enforcement sources now reporting 2 dead, multiple injured in that shooting in Widener, Georgia, about an hour outside of Atlanta. You heard them talking about policy and policy questions. Let's take it now back to the people. There are young people who are traumatized once again in these United States. There are parents who are traumatized, who are on the way, some of them walking miles to get to their students who are right now corralled in a reunification center. There are first responders in hospitals. You are looking live at one of those hospitals. This is Grady Hospital. That is a trauma center, and that is where ambulance after ambulance and helicopter after helicopter transported those who were shot today on what was supposed to be a school day. Keep it here on CBS News 24/7, where we will continue to report what we do know. We'll continue getting answers to what we do not know, and we'll continue to try to find answers to what we should know.
And that's all we got so far. And I'm not going to hold you. I'm just going to mold you, fold you, and scold you about being off code. Love, peace, blessings, and maloha. I got to go, ha, for sure, ha. You already know, ha. Big brother, light bright, supreme, almighty, signing off.